Good evening, Style Esports fans, and welcome to a Season 3 matchup in the Pill-to-Over group between Ominous Esports and the Shadow Mustangs Unleashed. Both of these teams looking for their first win in Style Esports Season 3. So one of these teams going to be getting out of the cellar and putting that first win on the board. I am Jarl Carl, joined by Baymax. How's it going, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. This should be interesting, right? Like you said, both these teams not got an official win under their belts yet, other than the bye rounds that everybody gets. For those who don't know, in the Pill-to-Over group right now, we don't have the full 8 teams. Normally you'd have 8, but we only have 6. So we got 2 byes. Every team gets 2 free wins. So technically, Ominous Esports and Shadow Mustang Unleashed both have 2 wins under their belt. But they aren't real wins. Neither of these teams has yet to actually clinch a series over anybody else. Shadow Mustangs Unleashed did take a game off of Glacial Nebula in their best of 3 a little while back, but haven't been able to put that nail in the coffin.
That is true. Those 2 free wins do not count. Essentially just like beating some bots in League, so not the greatest of achievements for these teams. Everybody has those, though, based on the way that the websites work, so got to have those buys coming through. As we've kind of talked about just format and logistics through pretty much the entire Champions Select, this was a pro-drafted game. Thing that's standing out the most to me so far is the Soraka top lane. Going to be up against Renekton. Both picks we don't really see a whole lot. Relatively similar to the Soraka set matchup, I would assume. Soraka just looking to scale and heal and then run off essentially, and just scale up for the game. But we'll have Wish for the map wide plays, but I'm not sure how well she'll fare against Renekton, who has a little bit more engaged with that slice and dice compared to the set.
Definitely. Soraka lane, Soraka top lane, for those who aren't aware, it is back. It is probably not as great as it was back a few months ago when it was really, really strong and everyone was taking it and everyone was banning it. I'm sure you remember those days because everyone remembers those days because they sucked, but it is back. It's sort of a low eco top laner you can utilize when you want a safe lane that can enable you to play around the bot half of the map with that global pressure that Soraka is going to bring. So definitely excited to see what Ominous can get done with that. I'm also a little curious about some of the other picks coming through as well. Specifically, I want to look at the Veigar pick mid lane for Shadow Mustang. I like the Veigar pick. I think it is super good into what Ominous Esports have. Look at Ominous Esports across the board. Close to medium range champions who do not have blinks, teleports, any other way to get out of that Veigar cage. You do have potentially a Kindred dash to jump out of the way of the event horizon, but if she's in when the cage goes down, she's done, she's stunned up. The Lamb's Bite is pretty good versus Veigar's burst damage, but also it's not that good because you're setting up for that primordial burst. You're setting up for that primordial burst execute as soon as the Lamb's Bite wears off. So I really like Veigar. I think his cage can put in a lot of work here. I think he's going to be a champion to watch out for on the Shadow Mustangs.
A lot of pick potential with that, especially in this game. Like you were saying, not a lot of mobility on the side of Ominous Esports, and that Kindred interaction is going to be very interesting to watch. Kind of who uses the ultimate first, if they kind of block each other, cancel each other out, or if Merlin is able to hold that until the ultimate is done. And then kind of just get a free kill on somebody that's stuck at that 10% threshold, not able to heal. Also, I believe healing is reduced or cut out entirely, I think, actually, during Lamb's Respite from allies. So Eddie might be a little bit less effective if people are down at that threshold. Might have to get corrected on that, but I'm pretty sure that is how that interaction works. So some interesting little champion interactions to watch for in this game as well. We haven't touched on the bot lane a whole lot. We have a Zyra pick into the Nautilus. I like this pick a lot. I think it's very useful at counter-engaging and stopping the engage from supports like Nautilus, Leona, and Braum, and things like that. It works very well at stopping the AD carry from following up, and Salem, especially with no movement ability, could find himself on the receiving end of those plants, which could be a big problem for him. That counter-engage Stranglethorn's Grasping Root going down, you can kind of find yourself just get one shot by Zyra. She does a lot of damage.
She does do a lot of damage. I am a little bit concerned for how squishy she is, though, right? She is good against the Nautilus in terms of you can pop up a plant and have it block a hook. That's pretty hard to do, though. And if legit does land a depth charge or land a dredge line onto ninjas, he is probably going to pop like a balloon. So, high risk, high reward.
Yeah, for sure. It's not for the faint of heart, and you can get blown up very easily, especially against bullet time. Zyra has no way to get away. You know, Tristana can jump out, maybe interrupt it with the Buster Shot ultimate, and Zyra, you know, has to stand there, land the plants to get that CC to stop Misfortune ulting, and it's pretty slow travel time on that, so could be hard to land on that one. But that's going to wrap it up for our Champion Select discussion. We're going to throw this to a very short break while we get ready for this game. We're going to load into it, and we will be back. We will not miss any of the action. We'll be back in just a few. Welcome back, everybody. We are loaded onto the Rift here. Shadow Mustangs Unleashed on the red side. Ominous Esports on the blue. Might be going toe-to-toe here, level 1, very briefly. Once again, I'm Jarl Connell, joined by Maymax. We're into the game, sir.
We are absolutely into the game, and we got these teams. Might see a fight break out here. Might see a face check coming through from Ominous.
Let's see the 5v5. Who do you like level 1, Maymax?
Oh god, you know, you got to get the Nautilus if the dredge line lands, but face checking into a bush is definitely something you don't want to do.
Merlin out of the bush. That's a nice dredge line. It has landed on to Green Ninjas. The disengage trying to come through from these two teams. Looks like they don't really want to fight all that much. They just kind of ran into each other, although there's some pings going down onto the blue buff. Ominous Esports looking for the invade on this buff. No word over the wall to see Green Ninjas. He could find himself in trouble if that is spotted out. There he is going to be seen, but not enough. Wokian trying to get that sweeper. He uses the sweeper. He sees the ward. but he can't clear it. Just that melee champion. Looks like he's going to lose the blue buff.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, most likely going to try to just go ahead and trade it back on the other side of the map, right? Try to take BD's blue buff away and maybe get a little bit of vertical jungling going on. We'll see what ends up happening. We did see a ward get dropped from Eddie in that topside pixel bush, so at least Wokian will know, or not Wokian, BD will know if Wokian tries to go ahead and steal that blue buff away. So we'll see. We'll see what happens here.
Ward down onto BD. He's going to be clearing that one out. Does have that sweeper, so very well played by him. Able to pick that one up in the top lane. Ewok getting bullied a little bit there by Eddie. That's the Soraka special. Throwing out those Qs over and over again. Just some punishment going down.
And Wokian did get spotted out on that ward heading to BD's topside jungle, so I'm sure that BD is just going to continue taking away these wolves, taking away this ground, but we are seeing a bit of a vertical jungling start to this game, which, you know, I think that does favor Ominous Esports. We talked about the Soraka top and about trying to enable your jungler to play on the bot half of the map. That's not a bad start, right? If you're trying to play around getting your, most likely that the Misfortune Nautilus, right? That's really the lane that Ominous have that can look to snowball early, especially if one of those dredge lines does land. We talked about the feast or famine nature of the Zyra support already a little bit in Champion Select. So definitely, I think if you're Ominous, you're not really looking to the top side, not really looking mid lane all that much, maybe in terms of keeping Nikki alive, but not as much in terms of getting kills. It's all about the bot lane, but not for Wokian. He is looking to punish a Soraka in the top lane if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. The only downside of having your jungler gone is that you can get ganked to the top lane. Eddie with a nice flash to get himself to a bit of safety, and a lot of healing coming through from those potions. A Q as well to keep himself topped off. Has to use both summoners. Barrier went down as well. Didn't quite see that one, but both summoners expended by that Soraka.
You know, I don't know if he actually had the flash. I think all the damage from Ewok and Wokian ended up landing anyway. I think he could have just used the barrier and probably still been fine. But regardless, a nice gank from Wokian, right? Getting those summoner spells, getting pressure on the top side.
Jump in the bot lane, Baymax. Salem going to try to get himself away. The jump is reset. Slick Drake going to be picking up that first kill. Has both summoners just to jump back out on the reset. BD has arrived on the scene. He might be coming in this one. A nice plant to block the dredge line, but BD is here with the flash and double buffs going out of Slick Drake. He's going to be able to use the heal to get himself out of that situation. And first blood goes over to the bot lane of the Shadow Mustangs, and they escape with their lives.
Well, I didn't even see the start of that fight. I'm so sorry for thank you for cutting me off. Thank you for cutting me off. Like, it was necessary. Although I did tell you to watch out for that bot lane. And holy crap, the dredge line did land legit in Salem, trying to make a play come through. But the nice counter attack there from Slick Drake and Green Ninja to actually pick up a kill 1 or 2 versus 3. That's super impressive and super good for Shadow Mustangs.
Yeah, absolutely. The counter engage there. Green Ninja's landing the grasping root, and just Slick Drake, no hesitation at all, just jumped straight onto Salem's face, and a nice 2v2 win, and able to get out before BD arrived. Maybe thinking the gank was a little bit closer. Salem and legit. He was on his way down, but wasn't quite able to be there in time to save their lives. Burned the heal on Slick Drake on the way out, but probably not what he was looking for. So that kill going over in favor of the Mustangs. The CS lead now still definitely in the favor of Salem in the bot lane. He's got quite a lot of gold advantage in that front, although it's about evened up by that kill. So doing pretty well on the CS front. And a nice Kircha Shard picked up by Slick Drake for a little bit more attack speed and those Energizer procs in lane.
Wokian spotted that top side again, used the sweeper to clear a ward. Eddie is going to be in the dark once more, forced to play so far back, and look at the freeze Ewok has on the Soraka on the top side of the map. I do want to point out so much credit to Slick Drake in that fight. A lot of people underestimate how much damage that Tristana can do. She is a duelist. She rocket jumps on your face, lands that bust, or not even the buster shot. She doesn't even have that. Lands the explosive charge and fully stacks it and gets the reset on her rocket jump. She just does so much damage. She can one-shot most AD carries if the crowd control isn't there to lock her down to punish her for going in. And when legit looks for that dredge line and hits Green Ninja with it, Slick Drake sees the green light, says, I'm going in. Gets a good kill, really good kill. Still though, CS lead bot lane in favor of Salem is indicative of the overall pressure of the lane. But now that Slick Drake's had a kill, and like you said, that shard to keep him topped up or keep that attack speed coming through, keep the shove in the lane there, pressure, sort of swing it back in the way of the Shadow Mustangs, and Wokian is free to start up this dragon. Although might get interrupted. BD hanging out in the area here.
He is in the area. This could turn into a bit of a fight. Maybe just try to pressure them off the Dragon. Their bot priority in favor of the Mustangs. That push coming through like we just mentioned. Tristana has the habit of just kind of pushing the wave, but she also has a habit of making you miss CS with that passive on the E, doing AoE damage every time you kill a unit. It's pretty easy to accidentally hit, the wrong minion, get the kill, and then it brings something else too low. It dies to the creeps or whatever. So tends to miss out on a few CS, and also just that pressure from the Misfortune Nautilus lane can kind of zone you off a few creeps every so often. So something to watch out for as the lane does continue. The Dragon going to have to be restarted now by Wokian. He might be seen on that ward. I'm not too sure whether they have vision of this or not. Looks like they do not have vision. Yeah, they don't quite have vision. They do probably know now. Merlin has gone over. Doesn't make any difference. Dragon picked up, but BD going for the bit of an invasion here. I think the red buff's going to be going over. So they definitely had some kind of intel on that. BD trying to take away some camps, trying to even up the score.
I do want to point out, top side of the map here. Look at what's been happening. Shadow Mustang, not only did they pick up the Dragon, not only have they had bot side pressure since Slick Drake picked up that kill, but top lane has been all Ewok all day long. Zoning Eddie not only out of minion range, you can look at the CS difference, not only out of minion range, but out of experience range as well. Eddie has just slowly but surely been dropping further and further and further behind on the Soraka, and the minions are not that big of a deal. Soraka's on a relatively low budget as far as gold goes. That's part of why it's okay to relegate her to the top lane and just say, you might get bullied, you might get pushed around, it's fine. Even if you die, it's fine, as long as you're on experience curve, right? That level 2 wish, when all the other soul laners are hitting level 11, can be huge. She's probably not going to have that. She's like a level and a half, maybe almost as much as 2 levels behind Ewok at this point. That's very, very significant, not only because Eddie is basically just a support Soraka at this point, but because Ewok is now going to be ahead of the curve.
Yeah, you mentioned the budget, being low for Soraka. I do want to point out she's 1,000 gold down in lane, just off of the CS, which is, a lot. More than you would just think from a CS lead perspective. So very, very strong lane by Ewok so far. That gank really did do wonders for them, actually. Burning her summoners and the vision clearing, just making her feel so uncomfortable in this lane that it's just really hard for her to play up and try to poke out that Renekton maybe like she would have wanted to. So we'll see if she's able to get some help, maybe from BD, maybe try to go for the Herald or something. But for now, she's just kind of on that top lane island and having a pretty rough time for herself. Has some boots now, but that's probably not the itemization that you really want to be going for. She's not going to have a ton of impact with just those boots. And Wokian now walking up to the top lane as well to maybe try to cause some more havoc for her.
Yeah, Eddie should be okay here, though. He's got flash and barrier up.
There's the jump, and double silence comes down, double Q as well. Very well played by Eddie there to stop that gank. His control ward, though, likely going to fall again, and he's going to find himself in the dark. Has one more stealth ward to put out once Wokian departs from far enough away, but she is just 50 CS down to next.
I wish we could have a graphic for like amount of time top lane has been frozen, because Ewok is still freezing that wave. And you mentioned Eddie, he foiled the gank, but he cannot break that lane freeze. He's in so much hurt, and now Wokian feeling free in the topside jungle. BD saw Wokian appear top lane, might try to punish him by getting his mark, but Ninja gonna find him with the vines. That's so much damage from Zyra.
That is a lot of damage coming through. Ignites on him as well, forcing that Lamb's Respite to come out from BD. Has to use that ultimate ability. Green Ninja's using his in return, and the Ignite. So not a terrible trade for BD, but that, who's ganking who in that bush is something to be said there. That's just a lot of damage coming through from Zyra.
Ignite for a Lamb's Respite is not a terrible trade, but you gotta factor the Herald in as well, right? Herald gonna be going over to Wokian because, again, he saw BD show up on the bot side of the map. He knows BD was going for his mark. He says, go ahead, go get the mark. See if I care. I'm gonna take this big purple monster that people like to call Shelly. I'm gonna drop her in a side lane, maybe top lane, try to free up Ewok to get around the map a little bit more. Maybe mid lane as well, try to get some gold onto Vigar, onto Merlin. Scaling Vigar is always very, very scary, but right now, Wokian, yeah, he is looking top lane. He did walk over a ward, so Eddie should be okay here. But still, you can tell Shadow Mustangs are clearly putting a lot of pressure on this top lane. They are trying to abuse the Soraka.
In the bot lane, legit going to be picking up the kill onto Green Ninja's traded back. Slick Drake able to get that kill. The flash into the tower. Flash is traded. Slick Drake going to fall at the end of that as we go into the top lane. Eddie goes down without even using Wish. BD soon to follow as well. No Lamb's Respite. That might have made all the difference in that team fight. We missed the very start of it due to that engage down in the bot lane. But this tower is going to go down in favor of the Shadow Mustangs. Just another massive advantage in the top lane going over.
just in time to get a clean reset off for the next dragon as well. We're looking at about 40 seconds until the second dragon of the game spawns. Gonna have fresh resets on Wokian and Ewok and Merlin. These items coming through, right? GLP picked up now for Merlin. We didn't talk about it yet, but it's a Glacial Augment Vigar. So the GLP item spike is a super important spike, especially when contrasting the slow from the Glacial Augment with the lack of mobility coming through from a lot of Ominous Esports. They have no way to get out of the cage. They have no way to really get out of the slow either. No blinks. There's a couple dashes to speak of. You know, Nautilus Hook is technically a dash if he hits something. And Kindred's got her Q as well. But other than that, it's just how do you get out? And now Shadow Mustangs, they have total control of outside jungle. Ooh, legit might be in trouble here, caught up in the cage.
Going to get stuck in that cage. Merlin doesn't even have Primordial Burst, doesn't even need it. That kill's going over, and Blade of the Ruin King is completed onto Ewok. This is a very strong Renekton, probably his strongest point in the game, I would say, so far. This dragon, you can't even dream of contesting this right now, especially without legit. That goes over to the Shadow Mustangs. They're just in complete control of this game. Every epic monster, every tower so far, they're just ahead in tempo across the map. Really well done so far.
Ooh, and BD trying to twist something back by getting some jungle camps away, but he's caught in the cage. He's in trouble.
Gonna get stunned up, down to half HP very quickly. Merlin has that Primordial Burst if he can get in range for it. BD now running desperately for the hills. Can he get away from this jungler? A nice dodge on the Super Soaker, but the Kha'Zix is here. Wokian has arrived on the scene. BD, you don't think he's gonna be able to get out of this one. He does. Go down to the bot lane. In the bot lane, Slick Drake going to fall as well. Nikki has now arrived. The Victor Green Ninja's trying to get himself out, but there's just nowhere to run for this champion. Who's the kill going to go over to? It is the MF. Salem now 3-1 and a double kill. A first sign of life for Ominous is this bot lane.
Yeah, 3-1 on a Misfortune. You know, if there was a champion on Ominous that could carry it, would maybe be Misfortune. It would maybe be Salem, but it's still looking rough, right? 2 dragons down, 1 turret to none, although Ominous are getting some turret play spot lane. Now top lane again, Wokian, he hasn't left. He's still here. Eddie might be in trouble.
BD has arrived though. Wokian maybe biting off a little bit more than he could chew here. I would not be surprised to see him go down. Actually has flash, so I take that back. Would be reasonably surprised. Ultimate goes out. Not sure you want to be turning around. Ewok going to go in for this one. Has the Dominus not available. Actually, Lemon Sprite does come out. Nikki going to get flashed away from by Wokian. It's just Ewok in this fight. He cannot get anywhere away from this one. Going to be taken out by Nikki and just way over aggressive by the Shadow Mustangs.
Yeah, that was actually really deep, right? That was a 2 versus 4. Merlin was not roaming over. It had been so long since Ominous had gotten the kills onto Nikki and onto BD and forced the resets, and now they're back. Now a dredge line onto Slick Drake, but he's got the rocket jump. He's going to be just fine with that one. I think Shadow Mustangs, slow your roll a little bit. In my opinion, they got the scaling. They're going to outscale. They got the Vigar, which I think for that reason alone, because Ominous have so few tools to deal with it, they don't have much of a front line. They don't have any blinks or ways out of the cage or ways out of the slows or even ways to really kill him. I think for that reason alone, Shadow Mustangs are in a great spot for outscaling. They need to play it slow, play for dragons, don't fall into the mistake that teams often make when there's no big objectives up, where they get too aggressive. They say, we got to do something, right? We're ahead. We should be looking to do something. You don't always have to do something. Sometimes the best thing to do is to sit and wait until an objective spawns and just farm. Play around that Dragon Soul. Play around that second Herald. A Baron when the time comes a little bit later onto this game. You don't have to force all these turrets down right away.
And they've done so well with the objectives too, right? I mean, they've gotten that Herald, they got those 2 dragons that we just talked about. Now going to be trying to engage onto Nikki. Wokian taking a lot of damage. He just has to go right back out, expends the ultimate, and I think what we're seeing so far is Shadow Mustangs kind of winning at the objective game and losing at the waiting game. They're just not able to be patient enough. We're going to see a fight in the mid lane. Nikki just, giving back better than he's taken. Merlin missing some of those abilities, and Shadow Mustangs seem to be kind of falling apart when there's no big objective on the map to take.
Hold up, though. Wokian did force Nikki's flash in that little exchange, right? Wokian definitely lost out in the trade, but you know what? He got out alive, and one of the key carries for Ominous Esports is flashless as a result. That could potentially end up being pretty big, right? There's a lot of pick tools on Shadow Mustangs. As we already talked about, Salem and Nikki, they really only have their flash if they want to get out of some of the stuff that Shadow Mustangs are going to throw at them, throw in their direction. Otherwise, you get caged up in that event horizon, you are going to die if you don't have flash. So Nikki has got to play a lot safer now. He is in a lot more peril when the next fight starts, and that'll probably be over the next dragon, which is only in 1 minute and 10 seconds.
Let that be a lesson to all you out there. Do not go near black holes. Event horizons, quite dangerous unless you have flash. Everybody knows that. That's a well-known physics fact. Make sure you have your flash when you're going into deep space. But like you said, 1 minute on the Dragon. That Herald has respawned right now, and immediately the Shadow Mustangs are on it, pretty much exactly on spawn. That is being hit by Wokian and Merlin, pretty much uncontested, I think, unless Nikki decides to walk himself over. It doesn't look like he shows that much interest in doing so, as Kindred is on the bot side. So BD going to be kind of giving this one up, saying, hey, maybe we'll fight you for this Dragon, as Eddie going to get jumped out on the top lane. Ewok does a ton of damage. Dominus pop, the barrier and the flash expended by Eddie. He still has Wish if he does need it. Not going to have to expend that cooldown, but he loses both summoners.
Ooh. I think it was so smart of Wish to actually flash instead of using the ultimate. Normally it's not, right? Ultimate is a much lower cooldown, but with a team fight about to happen over this Dragon, it's so important that that Wish is available. So I want to actually give credit to Eddie there. Now looking bot side, it is Ominous Esports potentially setting up for a dive onto Slickdrake and Ninjas, who are wisely backing away from that turret as Merlin and Wokian and Ewok try to trade turrets back themselves. But Dragon has been jumped on and will likely be taken by Ominous Esports, traded for a couple of turrets.
Going to be started up now. Yeah, the top lane turret and the mid lane turret have gone down. We'll see if there's a contest coming through for this Dragon. I would not expect to see it. You know, you are 2 up in Dragons. You can kind of use this time that Ominous needs to get the Dragon to kind of get some more farm, maybe put some purchases in. And like you said, they got 2 turrets for it. So I don't think that's that bad of a price to pay for 1 Mountain Dragon. They're still up 2-1. They have a lot of options on the table, and so I think pretty smart move to kind of regain control of the map in exchange for that, although they do have to use the teleport in the mid lane as well. That's been used by Ewok.
Yeah, we'll see what ends up happening, right? Because on the flip side of that, you could say that was worth it for Shadow because they took 2 turrets, they helped reassert some control of the map, they might get bot lane turret here as well from Slickdrake, but Ominous Esports is just delayed a potential Dragon Soul win condition by at least 5 minutes, which is, you know, a pretty big deal if that is your win condition. I said that I think Shadow Mustang Unleashed outscale, but I also think that there is a world where Ominous can outscale as well. It all depends on the mechanics of the fight, how Merlin uses that event horizon, who gets caught and who doesn't, basically, or really who has flash up, who can get out of that cage, who can get out of Shadow Mustang's engage. If Salem and Nikki don't have flash, I think it's GG for Ominous Esports in any sort of late game big team fight, but if they do, I think it can probably go either way, and Victor is no stranger to late game scaling in his own right? Victor scales insanely well. So there's definitely potential for outplay, even if I think on paper Shadow Mustangs should probably outscale. So, you know, delaying a Dragon Soul is always beneficial.
Yeah, Shadow Mustangs, you know, they definitely have that Vygar infinite scaling and can make a good argument that they outscale, but I don't think they outscale to the point of, like, you get to 40 minutes, you just win the game automatically. You know, they don't have a Kale. It's not like they're Kale, Vayne, Vygar. It's just like Freelo on this one. You know, they might have a better advantage, you know, they might have a small advantage in the late game, but it's still going to be determinant on that execution, right? We have to have a good cage for Merlin. If all his stuff gets blocked, I don't care how much AP you have if all your spells get blocked by, you know, Lamb's Respite, right? So seeing how that positioning works out. Also, not a very tanky team, so Bullet Time could do a lot of work if Salem's allowed to channel. We've mentioned Salem, one of the big carries in this game. You know, once he gets to 3 items, that Bullet Time can take out, you know, multiple members if he's able to channel it through.
Oh, Eddie might be in trouble again.
Ewok gonna be going in. Redemption comes down. Wish used. Barrier used as well. All the healing comes through. Eddie still running for his life. Gonna get run down. Dominus doing a lot of work. Eddie able to get to the Lamb's Respite used there by BD. Ewok going very low. The depth charge comes through as well. And it looks like Eddie is actually going to survive his encounter with the Crocodile. The 4 versus 1 was too much for Ewok. He goes down.
Really well played by Eddie, but I gotta be a little bit critical of Ewok there. That was so deep. Even if he got the kill, I'm not sure that it's worth trading Flash for a kill on Eddie. What else are you going to get with that kill? There's no Dragon up. It's probably too early to think about seriously looking at that Baron. So, you know, Flash is a pretty big cooldown for Ewok, right? It's basically what allows him to get on the backline and one-shot somebody. So even if he had found the kill, I don't know that it would have been worth it. But he didn't. He chased Eddie all the way almost to Ominous's base, right into BD's Lamb's Respite, managed to save him, a lot of healing coming through afterwards, and suddenly Ewok loses the out on the 1 versus 1, which turned into a 1 versus like 2 or 3, and he burned his flash. That's actually a pretty big deal. We'll see if Ominous Esports can end up capitalizing on that in any way. It does mean that any sort of a flank from Ewok is going to be a lot less scary moving into the next few minutes of this game.
Yeah, his backline access is just gone on this one, and it's not like he even traded a flash back on Eddie. You know, Eddie didn't have to use his flash, had to use barrier, which is a 3-minute cooldown, not even really that high. Wish is already back up, the redemption's already back up, so essentially getting nothing for that. And like you were saying, I don't think a 1-for-1 is worth it for him at all, right? He's 2,000 gold ahead of this Soraka. He's most of the gold lead right now if we are taking a look at the individual gold. And so, he needs to be having a huge team fight impact to try to match the impact that Soraka just naturally has with that 5-person point and click heal on the ultimate in Wish. So, that 1-for-1 kill is just not really that worth it. And we've seen the Shadow Mustangs throughout this game kind of over chasing, trying to go a little bit too deep for kills. Would like to see them be a little bit more disciplined and just pull back a little bit, get the summoner, get the ultimate, and then just back off before you expend more stuff.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Now, Dragon is spawning relatively soon. Important to note, Nikki, his flash is back up. Salem's had flash for a long time. In the event horizon, BD might take a little bit of damage here, but he's just fine. Looks like Shadow Mustangs don't have vision over that wall. Ewok running down right now, sitting up to be a 5 versus 5 team fight over this Dragon. As Ominous, they rush to get mid lane control.
Yeah, Ominous just kind of leaves the area. I want to point out very briefly, level 11's on all of the members as we do see the fight. There is the Lamster Spike coming down immediately to try to keep the team alive, but it is Eddie and BD going to be caught in this one. There's the end of that bullet time coming across. Not going to do a whole lot. Top laner and jungler taken out. No more healing in this team fight. Nikki on the side trying to get the kill onto Wokian. He's going very low. No way to keep himself alive. He's going to be taken out on this one. Ewok has fallen as well. 2 for 2. The top laners going down, but Slickjack going to be jumping into this team fight. There's a buster shot to get Nikki out of this one. He flashes away as the jump comes back up as well. Nikki not able to chase, I should say, into that event horizon, and a kind of wild fight. Both the topsiders just traded back and forth, and then 2 more kills found out. The bot lane going out for Ominous. It's 4 for 2 in favor of the Mustangs.
Just barely a 4 for 2. Slick Drake and Green Ninjas getting out by the seat of their pants on that one. Holy crap, they were so close to dying. Those would have been 2 pretty big kills going over if Nikki had picked them up as well. That's 900 gold worth of, or 800. 700 gold with a shutdown sitting in Slick Drake's pockets right now if Nikki were to pick up that kill. But at the end of the day, Shadow Mustangs, they inched out the fight. They did win the fight. And now teleport coming through from Ewok means that Shadow Mustangs also have inside track on this Dragon, as both these teams just set up the skirmish again. Eddie caught up in the cage.
Again, Baymax. Eddie going very low, but Merlin does not have vision for the Primordial Burst. Not going to be able to use that one, as now the focus target is going to be Ewok. Doesn't have the ultimate. He's going to be taken out, but Slick Drake is doing so much damage. Picks up the 1 kill. These fights are just back and forth, Baymax, as we kind of just reset now. 4 versus 4. Merlin's so low, able to get some fruit. Still has that ultimate, though, very key to watch. Is the Dragon going to be started up?
Dragon has been started up in Ominous Esports. They might be too low to contest this. They're sort of licking their wounds, but you can tell by their body language they don't want to give it up. BD hopping over the pit, looking for a steal, not going to quite get it.
Wish coming through. Wokian trying to trade on that jungler, but it looks like they are just going to clear the area. The Shadow Mustangs do not want to fight anymore. They got the Dragon. They got their prize. Not going to play with their food. They decided to back their way out. 3rd Dragon of the game for the Mustangs.
Yeah, Ominous. You can tell they did not want to give that Dragon. They said, this is 3rd Dragon. This is kind of a big deal, but at the end of the day, you got to know when you can take the fight and when you can't, and Ominous could not take the fight. BD tried to look for that steal. Actually, impressively managed to not get the steal, but get in and get out without dying, without burning flash. That was pretty nicely done by him. So did manage to live and attempted the steals. And still, 3rd Dragon is an important Dragon, but it's not as important as Dragon Soul, right? Shadow Mustangs still have yet to pick up the Mountain Soul for themselves, which would make these fights significantly harder for Ominous Esports. I honestly don't think that as this game goes later, I don't think that Mountain Soul is necessarily like a guaranteed win, but of course, the earlier you can get the soul, the better the buff is, the harder those shields are to break. You mentioned it a little bit earlier, though. Shadow Mustangs don't really have that tanky of a team. They're not going to get that much of a benefit from the percent armor and the percent magic resist added on from those raw Dragon stats. It's mostly just going to be the shield. As looking towards the bot side of the map, Slick Drake taking away that bot lane turret, sort of split pushing it down with the Tristana. Not a bad look, but now mid lane being sieged up by Ominous.
Merlin 1 versus 5. The one little Yordle trying to defend his mid lane tower. Not going to be able to do so. That's going to go down. We might see a fight here, actually. Wokian able to get himself away from that dredge line. So I think that this fight's going to kind of fizzle out for now, unless the Mustangs really want to fight this. Might see a Baron dance started up. Seems a little bit early for that, but you never know. Some vision being cleared out, control wards going down as Ominous seemed to have asserted control over the area, and they decided to just back to mid lane. But I want to briefly touch on the items. Rabadon's Death Cap's been completed. The Static Shiv is completed for Slick Drake, so a little bit more of a utility build, and the Lich Bane completed on the Victor as well, as we're going to be maybe going into another fight. Once again, these teams, a lot of skirmishing going on. Looks like they're going to be backing off once more, but the siege has been kind of flipped on its head. Now it's the Mustangs pushing down into lane.
Yeah, you mentioned the item spikes. Mustangs are really starting to hit their stride. Glacial Augment Vigar typically doesn't have a lot of damage early on because you are rushing those utility items like a GLP, typically a Twin Shadows as well. But Merlin has opted for a Death Cap second item. He says, I need the damage to one-shot people through Wish, right? Through Nautilus Shield, through Soraka heals, Astral Infusions, anything that's coming out, being thrown out by Ominous. I need to kill people through that. I need to kill them fast enough so that they don't have time for that healing to come in. For the Death Cap, I kind of like it. I think it's good versus Ominous's team because Ominous don't have that beefy of a front line either. We talked about Shadow Mustang not being that tanky. Ominous isn't that tanky either. The tankiest number they have is a support Nautilus that's level 10 and is sitting on one item, and it's Zeke's Herald. Right, we saw Legit get caught in that Event Horizon. He melted in that last team fight to Slick Drake's auto attacks. He melted to that Buster shot, and he's gonna melt to Merlin now as well, thanks to that Death Cap that got picked up. So we'll see if he can make use of the Death Cap. But what it does mean is that Shadow Mustangs as a team are not going to have as much utility to set up these fights with. They're not going to have quite as much to play with, and if Nikki or Salem do manage to flash out of that cage, there's not going to be as much follow-up. The Twin Shadows is not going to be there.
A little bit less utility, but he does have close to 700 AP, which is quite a lot. Maximum of 1,500 damage coming out from that Primordial Burst. So that is quite a lot of damage. Could be taking somebody out straight away with that one. Just a few spells, and they could be taken off the map. But you mentioned the flashes. They are all available in this game. 10 flashes are up on Summoner's Rift. We could be in for a very explosive team fight at this Dragon Soul point for the Shadow Mustangs, which is coming up in 50 seconds. Some recalls coming through, purchases being made by the Mustangs. It looks like they're going to move down toward the bot side to try to get vision control. They do have a couple of deep wards in the bot side jungle of Ominous. Maybe not too useful for this dragon play, but there is teleport potential for that from Ewok if they want to send him back to base and have him come in on the flank.
Yeah, this is likely going to be the fight. We're likely about to see the fight that determines everything. This could be the end of the game. One of the teams is potentially going to get aced here. There will be a big team fight. There's a lot of flashes. There's a lot of fireworks about to come out. But right now, Ominous Esports, they are the ones with control of the pit as that dragon is about to spawn. We'll see if they can maintain control of that area. For Shadow Mustangs, it's dark, but they're going to be able to start slowly moving up. Ewok is probably going to be looking for something. Bushbait coming through from Ominous Esports. Ooh, they might walk into this one.
Nice blast gun over the wall. You gotta check that bush dredge line going to come out onto Wokian, but there's a dominance pop as well. The re-engage coming through from Ewok, but he's just getting shredded. He gets taken down immediately. BD has picked up that kill. Wokian now forced to run for the kills as well. Slick Drake trying to get himself out. Green Ninjas with a bit of disengage, but he gets hit by that dredge line as well. The Wish coming up, and everyone is topped up on the side of Ominous. They are up 2-0 in this fight. Exhaust goes down from Salem. They are fighting the 280 carries just by themselves in the side as this dragon has been started up. It's going to be going down, going the way of the blue team. Ominous Esports has picked up that dragon. They win the fight 2-0.
Just saying. Twin Shadows, insanely good for face-checking blind bushes when you don't have a frontline. That's another good reason to pick that item up. Shadow Mustangs, they are punished. A nice dredge line from Legit onto Wokian means that fight was almost over before it started. Now a clean 3-0 from Ominous Esports. They turn right to this Baron. They not only get the dragon, but they are looking to burn down the big purple monster himself.
No jungler in the area. Actually, tell a lie. Wokian is here. Didn't quite see him below something on my screen, but he's just not able to have access to the pit. How does he get in? How does he steal it? The answer is he does not. As Merlin going to be going forward. There's a Primordial Burst on the Legit. He's going to be going down. Not sure that was worth the flash, though, on the Vigar. That's a very immobile champion, as the Baron has gone the way of Ominous in the escape with 4 members.
Yeah, you know, I think he might have been looking for Nikki actually instead, but realized he just wasn't quite in range and opted to settle for Legit in lieu of Nikki. Still, though, I think you're right. Flash, again, super important cooldown. And what did Bernie get accomplished there? You got a little bit of kill gold. Doesn't matter that much because of how late we are in the game. We're, you know, beginning to approach late game here. Kills don't matter as much. And on top of that, what else was gained, right? The Baron was already lost, picked up by Ominous. There's no other objectives really in play. Everyone else from Ominous got away scot-free. They are back on the map, and legit is a pretty low level. He's already respawned. Everyone from Ominous is back and ready to go ahead and pick another team fight. And by the way, Merlin, no flash now. Wokian, no flash now. BD and Nikki and Eddie all still sitting on their flashes. These more carries on Ominous currently have flashes than do on Shadow Mustang. So that could come up pretty big as well in the next fight. But there might not be a reason to fight for a little while because Baron was just taken. Dragon not up for 3 minutes. We'll see if Ominous opt to go for a push here or if they just stall for that next dragon and try to scale with the Mountain Dragons.
Looks like they might be going for the push. I also want to mention, it's not like Legit is a big split pusher and you want to take that Baron buff away, right? He's always going to be with the team, and so taking that one Baron buff away just doesn't really achieve a whole lot, except for getting that kill. You're not denying a split push advantage or anything like that. So, yeah, questionable decision on the flash, although it did slow them down actually a little while he had to recall. So, always decisions to be made. Legit now caught in that event horizon, going to take some damage, get sunned up, and there is that Astral Infusion, just healing him straight away back to full HP. That Athene's and Holy Grail doing a lot of work. Meanwhile, in the top lane, actually, that tower has been taken out by Ewok. The recall not coming through fast enough by Nikki, as Ewok's now going to get chased to the ends of the earth on this one. Some skirmishing might go down in the river as well. 4 versus 4 on this fight if they decide to take it. Victor, one of those big sources of damage in team fights, so might change the dynamic if he's not there. Merlin poking his nose around this, might try to go for a stun in this bush. There it goes. Not going to land onto anybody, though, but an interesting little zone control created there. Ward goes down immediately, and these teams look to reset. Legit running forward, but I think everybody's okay.
A nice little split push from Ewok. Everybody's not okay. Event Horizon on BD forcing the Lamb's respite. I think that is going to be the end of that, though. So you were kind of right. Ewok, that was a nice look on the split push to force Ominous's hand, make them back off the pressure. Ominous, they don't want to talk about that side lane, right? They want to group mid lane if they can. They want to push as 5 because Eddie can't stand in the side lane versus Ewok. And like you said, you don't really want Nikki there. He's a big team fighting threat. If Ewok can drag Nikki to a side lane, that is totally worth it for Shadow Mustangs. They'll probably win the 4v4 wherever else it happens on the rest of the map. So Ominous are in sort of a weird spot where if they don't have all their side lanes pushed up, they don't have that pressure there, then they aren't really in a place where they can look to push or siege anything. And now Baron buffs have run out for this team. We are back to playing around these dragons.
The teleport's just been used in the top lane by Ewok though to try to clear out that wave and get another push going. He will not have that summoner for this dragon fight. He's going to be going just for the
that was kind of troll, actually.
Yeah, just use it at the top lane. I don't know what's going on with that at all. He will not have that advantage now in the side lane against Nikki. If Nikki's able to get away from him out of vision and then teleport into a fight, he might have a huge advantage in that fight if Ewok's not able to join. So nothing really gained by that teleport. I mean, he picked up a wave or two, but his team has arrived just at the same time he did. Basically nothing gained by that. Merlin might be caught now. Gets hit by the dredge line. He's going to be going down very low. He's taken out straight away, and a huge
bullet time
through the bullet time, and the ultimate from Victor as well. The Chaos Storm is just ripping through this team. Woki is the only member left alive. He's running for the hills, scratching his head. That's a 4-for-0 fight. That's going to be the 3rd dragon of the game going over to Ominous as they just blow that fight wide open.
A nice team fight coming through from Ominous, but again, I gotta question some of what Shadow Mustangs are doing. It starts with the teleport, right? Dragon is spawning. This is your dragon soul. Why did you just blow that side lane teleport split pressure? And then after blowing teleport, Shadow Mustang, they say, you know what? We already blew our teleport. Why don't we just send everybody to the top side of the map while Dragon is spawning? Give up the pressure we have over Dragon. We're just gonna throw it away, looking to go all in for this inhibitor. Now, legit flashing forward, almost onto the dredge line. I think Ominous, they're going to be able to break open Shadow Mustang's inhibitor here. Maybe not take it, but get that inhibitor turret. And they are going to get the 3rd dragon of the game for themselves. We're now looking at a 6 dragon game, 3 mountains on Ominous. And suddenly these champions that weren't looking all that tanky are starting to feel that way.
Yeah, just a little bit more of that armor and magic resist, and you know, essentially like an extra, I would say, chain vest / Negatron cloak for all of these champions, just buffing up their base resistances, even just on the you know, the carries, the Victor, the Misfortune, and so and it even buffs up that QSS, the Seeker's Arm Guard. All these little items just get a little bit stronger, a little bit more value from those, and that gold value really starts to add up in these team fights. It becomes a little bit harder to take them down. Maybe you can survive a primordial burst where you couldn't have earlier. So that's also something important to note. You know, the dragon buffs themselves haven't been as important this season just because they've been nerfed a little bit and the focus is on that soul. But when you get to stack up 3 or 4 of any one of those buffs, they really start to be noticeable and impactful in the game. And that's what we're seeing here, especially on a team that isn't tanky at all. They're able to get themselves, a little bit of artificial tankiness, really helping them out here as they're just kind of running across the map free range.
And speaking of running across the map, again, I'm finding myself a little bit curious what Shadow Mustangs are doing. Baron is the next objective on the map, and Slick Drake is currently bot lane, probably going to get that turret, but no teleport. Although he is forcing Ominous's hand. Ominous now trying to look for a fight mid lane, engaging on Wokian or Ninja. They should be fine, though. Think Ninja's out of this one.
Green Ninja is trying to run for his life. Think he is going to get out, so this is an interesting 1-3-1 versus the 5-0. Going to have almost a semi-base race going on right now. This could get very exciting very quickly. The macro plays, who's going to go back? What do you do? Legit stuck in that event horizon, going to go down to half HP. The inhibitors is taken out. Nikki has recall. Dredgeline going to miss. Wokian able to escape from that one, but Ewok's on the inhibitor. The other inhibitor turret has gone down as well in the bot lane. This has become extremely exciting. The inhibitor's taken down in the bot lane. The inhibitor might go down in the top lane as well, Baymax. This could be double inhibs here for the Shadow Mustangs. They weather the storm in the base. They lose their mid inhib, but they escape with their lives for now. Ewok's gonna have a pretty hard escape from this one, but the Victor, actually, Nikki was forced to go back in the base to stop Slick Drake. So both inhibitors go down. The Baron's now been started up by Ominous, as this game has just become very crazy very quickly.
2 inhibitors traded for a Baron. I'm not sure who that favors. I think it is, honestly, I think probably Ominous Esports still, but I don't hate the look from Shadow Mustangs. I just wish that maybe instead of hanging around for that top inhibitor, maybe instead of hanging around for that last half of the turret damage on that bot turret that Slick Drake stayed for, I think Slick and Ewok probably could have booked it to that Baron and actually made it there before Ominous had a chance to burn it down, and maybe looked for a team fight, looked for a collapse with the rest of Shadow Mustangs. I don't know. Hard to say exactly what the right play would have been. Either way, 2 inhibitors being down is going to make it a lot harder for Ominous Esports to push out of their base, especially when the key wave clear champion on their team is Nikki, who, by the way, is level 18, ridiculously strong on this Victor. He is the key carry for Ominous Esports. If he is not in the fight, high probability that Ominous Esports are not going to win that fight, and he is maybe going to be stuck clearing a lot of these side waves, giving Shadow Mustangs an opportunity to look to force a fight somewhere else.
Absolutely. I do want to point out more things about the inhibitors, but we might see a fight, actually. You're going to have to hold that thought. BD going to be finding himself in all sorts of trouble. Might have to use the ultimate there. It is Primordial Burst has already been used. Can he get himself out? The Redemption going to come down. Going to get healed up. Almost a full HP. A flash away from Wokian, trying to get himself out of this situation. Teleport being channeled as well by Ewok. A nice flash from Merlin to keep himself safe, but we do have a fight in the base as well. The Victor has arrived in the base. Ewok trying to get himself out, but he is going to be going down. Merlin now being run away, but back in the base, we have kind of a base race, a through the front door base race. Nikki has picked up 1 Nexus Tower. Where are the recalls? It's just Green Ninjas. The second Nexus Tower goes down. The Chaos Storm, he's just wiped off the map. The Zyra is gone from this. The Nexus is now under fire. There's nobody left to save the base. Nikki's on the Nexus. It's down to half HP. It's down to 20%. It's down to 10%. One Roto should do it. It goes down, and Nikki picks up the through the front door base race, winning the game 1-0 for Ominous Esports. They take the lead in the series.
For me, it felt like, despite leads happening early game from Shadow Mustangs, honestly, it felt like just some key micro differences between these teams are honestly what ended up leaving Ominous Esports with the win. That was impressive, though. I like the way how Ominous Esports played around the map, and especially Nikki, 6-0 on this Victor. Ridiculously strong performance, making me eat my words about Shadow Mustangs outscaling. I honestly, I got a lot of criticism for Shadow Mustangs. I think it was mostly mistakes that they made that allowed this to happen, but I'll eat a little bit of crow. I was right. It was a late game, or I was wrong. It was a late game, and Ominous still ended up winning. So I'll throw that out there. But regardless, that Ominous Esports, they win. They get their first. Is that their first game win? It might be. They haven't won a series yet. So if they win this series, remember they are playing for their first series win of season 3. Both of these teams trying to avoid getting relegated to Freljord.
Absolutely. Do want to avoid that. We can just check real quick here on this team. Give me 2 seconds to do so. The Shadow Mustangs have not won a series. They're 0-3, but Ominous Esports is only 0-1. So they've only played 1 series, and they were 2-0'd by the Holy Divers. So this is their first game that they have won. Never mentioned the first series, as well. So that's their first game. They're looking to make it their first series here in this game number 2. If we take a look at the damage charts, which are were being displayed a moment ago by our lovely host Axman87, the Vigar, of course, doing the most. It's just, you know, how that champion works, but pretty even damage spread actually throughout this game by a lot of these members. You know, this wasn't a game where one person hard carried. You know, the Victor had 4,000 less damage than the Misfortune, but he ended up winning the game. And so a very nice team-based game by both of these teams. And I think the Shadow Mustangs, I was going to say before all of that craziness happened right at the end, I thought the 2 inhibitors down with the dragon spawning, as well as the teleport up for Ewok again, could create an opportunity for essentially what happened to them to happen, a teleport into the base and kill that Nexus. And, you know, it turned out that Nikki just kind of walked down the mid lane and won the game. But I think that could have happened to either team, and that game was really balanced on a knife's edge kind of for those last like 5 or 10 minutes.
Okay, low key, Carl. This is the last thing I'll say, and then we can throw it to a break. I think if Merlin had picked up Twin Shadows instead of Death Cap and had used that to get vision control over that 3rd dragon, I think Shadow Mustang could have won that fight, would have won that fight, and I think that may have honestly been the play that might have been the point where the game tipped in the scales of Ominous Esports and they ended up winning the game. So I'll just say it. I think Twin Shadows is just so good, especially if you don't have a frontline to face check, right? The vision control, the utility that comes out from that is underrated. If you're going Glacial Augment Vigar, Twin Shadows are so good.
Yeah, that is definitely a very strong item and would have liked to see in this game, but wasn't to be, and that's just the way that the cookie crumbled. Regardless, that is going to do it for us here in this first game. We will be back after a very brief break, I can't talk, with game number 2 here between Ominous Esports and the Shadow Mustangs Unleashed. Don't go away, we will be back in just a few. Welcome back, everybody, to game number 2 between Ominous Esports and the Shadow Mustangs Unleashed here in the Piltover group in Style Esports Season 3. The first game was won by Ominous Esports, and a nice through-the-front-door base race play by Victor. That was Nikki on that champion. Bringing you the action in game number 2, I am Jarl Carl, and I'm joined by Baymax. How's it going?
Going pretty well. Got some quality League of Legends going on here. I wanted to come live a little bit sooner than normal here, just so as I felt like I should right some wrongs that may have happened with that last game really quickly. I feel like I was maybe a little bit too harsh to the Shadow Mustangs. I was being a little bit critical of them, and I think the criticisms were well deserved, but I want to highlight some good things that happened as well, right? Shadow Mustangs started ahead in that last game. They had very good objective control early on, taking both the first Dragons, both the first Heralds, with a team that I wouldn't necessarily have expected that they would have had that control on. So definitely props to them for that. And I really feel like for the Shadow Mustangs, that game went mega downhill after that one fight on that third Dragon where basically all of Shadow Mustangs ended up face checking into that pixel bush, and Ominous were just there waiting for him with the dredge line. Legit landed that sucker right onto Wokian's face. So I feel like after that point, Shadow Mustangs, they maybe got a little bit tilted. They maybe, are making some uncharacteristic macro mistakes that they weren't making earlier on. So I want to see their mental come back strong going forward into this next game. This is game 2 of a best of 3. It could still go either way, and Shadow Mustangs have proven that they have what it takes to at least to get a lead. And if you can get a lead, you can get a win. So, y'all, Carl, here
Yes,
we
sir.
are. We're moving into this game. We got fans coming through. This was pro drafted. What are you thinking? What are your thoughts? Hit me with some words on it right now.
I'm thinking so far we're running back the draft, Baymax, because we got the same 6 bands coming through from that previous game. I can tell the chat that we may be seeing a bit of a throwback in the support position for the Shadow Mustangs Unleashed. So be sure to watch out for that one coming through as we continue this draft. The Ornn picked up by Ominous Esports. I like that a lot. I think the Ornn is a very strong pick. I think it has the potential to do a lot of work in competitive games here because it just gives so much gold value. You don't need to be ahead to give your team just free gold, basically. And so you can kind of get rid of your gold deficit by upgrading those items when he gets to level 13, level 14. A lot of gold value can come through. You can get about 7,000 gold value or so through those upgraded items, maybe about 8k if you get all the way to level 18. So can be very, very impactful in these fights. And I think they'll just have a little bit more pressure in the top lane compared to the Soraka versus Renekton matchup. In the last game, Ornn is a champion that, he doesn't necessarily win lanes, but it's pretty hard to bully Ornn out of lane. It just doesn't really happen. He can buy items for himself without going back to base, and he just has a lot of damage coming through. So I think this champion is a nice pickup. I think it will cement the problems that they may have had in the top side in the last game, because their bot lane was winning for most of that game. The mid lane, reasonably even. So I think the top lane was really the main pressure sink for them in that game. And so I think this time around, they have a much better chance of contesting those objectives, especially around level 6. Call of the Forge God coming through. Graves is a pretty early game jungler. And of course, Nikki going to just run it back on his Victor. I don't think you can complain about going 6-0 and 4 in game number 1. Very strong on that pick, strong team fighting, and he ended up winning the game for him as well.
I do think Eddie's wish on that Soraka in the last game ended up being pretty crucial, pretty critical towards Ominous disengaging some of Merlin's engages, some of the Event Horizons and some of the GLP slows, keeping people alive, keeping Salem and Nikki alive. So we'll see if that ends up biting Ominous in the butt. But you're right. I like the Ornn pick. It's strong in lane. It's hard to bully. A little bit harder than Soraka maybe is. And you still got the Soraka actually picked up for legit there in the support role instead. So the wish will still be present to stop some of that burst from Merlin, who by the way is on Vygar again as well. I do want to point out, Shadow Mustangs have actually stolen the misfortune away from Salem. And I thought it was going to go over to Slick Drake, but it looks like we are seeing a misfortune support, which that has not really been meta for quite some time. I am definitely curious how that one's going to go.
Yeah, that's the throwback I was hinting at y'all with. So a little bit of misfortune support, pretty squishy bot lane once again, but a little bit of a tankier top side to kind of make up for it. So more tankiness throughout in this game than we saw in that last game. The Ezreal Soraka lane, very, very passive. This is not a lane that really wants to get a lot of kills. They just kind of want to farm up and maybe sustain, and then maybe, if you can sustain long enough, you can try to go for that kill. So we'll see how that works out. Graves, of course, very early game jungler, can do a lot of damage to Ashe Misfortune real quick. There's no CC pre-level 6, so that could also be very important. Well, it'll depend on the jungle path that he does decide to take. Amumu also has pretty early game gank, has pretty strong early game ganks, I should say, with that bandage toss if it does land. And that mid lane, neither of these champions are mobile. We'll see if the cleanse comes through for either of these. We didn't see it last game, so I wouldn't expect to see it again. Maybe for Nikki against the Ashe Arrow. And there's just a lot of crowd control actually from those 3 middle players on the Mustang side.
Yeah, and I want to shift focus. You were talking about the 3 middle players. Let's widen it out to the 5 players on both these teams, the team comps as a whole. I am a big fan of what Ominous Esports have drafted. We saw the Soraka on Eddie last time around as a potential counter to Merlin, and just as a really strong pick. The healing that comes through from a Soraka is very good. Nikki back on the Victor. The Victor performance last game was exceptional. Nikki was looking so good on that Victor, so seeing him back on one of his signature power picks that we saw last time around, definitely like to see that. And you talked about the Ornn already. Graves is a strong pick. Ezreal is a strong pick. Flip that around a little bit. Let's look at Shadow Mustangs. You know, they got some good things going on, but I'm not going to lie. I'm not a fan of the Cho'Gath. I don't like the pick here. I don't see what the point of having that Cho'Gath in the team comp is. I don't see what he really does all that well. Same thing with the Misfortune support. It's fine for lane pressure early on, but it's really just a poke sort of a support that can provide some lane pressure, provide some pressure in lane, provide some lane presence, provide some pressure in lane, but what is it going to do later on? Unless Slick Drake and Green just can pop off and get kills early, my guess is not a whole heck of a lot. And popping off and getting kills early versus an Ezreal Soraka is pretty hard. That's a pretty safe lane. And you're probably going to need some all-in to do that. And Misfortune is not all-in. Ashe is not that great at all-inning. Her arrow is fine. That's a good all-in tool, but until that, you don't got much. And even after that, like, there's no follow-up. There's no support, no Taric or Lulu or Nami or whatever to follow up on that with some crowd control. It's just a Misfortune who's sure going to press R if she's in range, going to do a lot of damage, but Ezreal probably Arcane Shifted the arrow. And even if he didn't, Soraka is probably going to be keeping him alive, popping that Wish, popping the Astral Infusion. So I don't know. We'll see. Shadow Mustang, I feel like they put all their eggs in the bot half of the map basket, and I don't know how it's going to work out for him. We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of just Ashe arrow in a vacuum, right? It's just that one arrow goes out, maybe it picks up a kill. It seems kind of unlikely, and I want to say that Wish also is going to more than counter out that bullet time as we go through this. It's just, it does more healing than that bullet time is going to do in damage. So we'll have to watch how that works. We are going to throw it to one more very brief break as we load into this game. We'll be back in just a few minutes with the start of game number 2. Alrighty, folks, we are in game on Summoner's Rift for game number 2 between Ominous Esports on the blue side and Shadow Mustangs Unleashed on the red side. I'm your Carl, joined by Baymax. We might see some level 1 fighting, so I want to throw it right over to you. How's it going? How are you feeling about this level 1?
Level 1, I mean, I'm kind of surprised that Ominous Esports look like they're itching sorry for level 1. You know, they got everyone together, all grouped up, looking to get into Shadow Mustang's jungle here, but they don't have that great a level 1. Ezreal's got an okay level 1, but like, Ornn is very lackluster, Vlad is very lackluster, Graves is really good at kiting and disengaging, but not that great at chasing somebody down, and Soraka, again, about the same thing, like good at kiting, good at disengaging, not as great at actually killing somebody. So, you know, we'll see. Nothing ends up materializing out of that one. It looks like we might be looking for a late invade, though, right? Ominous Esports, they didn't end up committing early, but they are committing now. Sweeper on BD, moving forward into Shadow Mustang's jungle. Gonna sweep that ward, sweep that vision, and maybe look to start Wokian's blue buff again. We saw this happen last game, right? We saw the double jungle, or not the double jungle, the vertical jungle happen early on, forced out by BD. It looks like that might be the BD special because it's happening right here, right now. Round 2.
Very, very similar start, without as much chunking going down onto one of the members as we saw in the last game. Merlin was able to get a couple of AP stacks and then just kind of walk off to mid lane. So I think a little bit easier start there for the Shadow Mustangs, but I would expect to see a very, very similar play to what we saw in the last game. There's actually no ward by Ominous in the river, so they may not have vision on Wokian if he decides to go for that invade, which is something to watch out for as well. I think in this one, we'll have to see how that tracking comes through. That, of course, is very important. Yeah, so they will not have vision on this Amumu. You can assume, and I think they will, that he is there, but they will not actually know. So maybe a little bit more fear in their hearts. Is that poke coming down in the bot lane from the Misfortune support? Pretty annoying stuff.
Yeah, you know, I already mentioned it. I don't like the Misfortune support. I don't like Cho'Gath top lane either, but the Make It Rain is kind of annoying, especially early on. We do see a gank coming through from BD, forcing a flash from Slick Drake. He is going to be just fine, but you know, already Shadow Mustang's bot lane punished for disrespecting BD, disrespecting the vertical jungle.
Especially because they knew he was in that side, right? I mean, they knew that he was doing those camps. They knew about when he would be done with them. You have to think, you know, you can ask your jungler, hey, where are you at? He's probably in a similar place. So I think there's a little bit greedy there trying to push up the wave that quickly. You know, it's not really a lane you need to have pressure in. Ezreal Soraka's not, you know, in a lot of danger of just out pressuring you in this lane. So that is something to watch out for if they do continue trying to push. They are very susceptible to ganks. We talked about that a little bit already. So have to see how they deal with that, how much vision they're able to get down with those hawk shots from Ashe once those do come online at level 3 or level 4. But for now, they're just going to be down one flash and the game goes on.
Yeah, we talked about it already, but I think that vertical jungle does favor Ominous Esports. I like that they forced that, right? Because you're forcing Wokian to gank an Ornn or a Victor when his laners are a Cho'Gath and a Veigar. Like, that's not that scary. He might find success here. If Eddie face checks this bush, he might prove me wrong after a bandage toss, but you know, generally speaking, I think that the vertical jungle is not favoring Ominous.
Eddie might be able to just walk himself out of this one. Might have to use the flash, but a nice dodge on the rupture with that unstoppable from Eddie. Just kind of ate the bandage toss and walked himself out to safety. He's going to be okay.
He remembers this from last game, though. A gank, a camp, top lane early on, and lane frozen in Ewok's favor. Although, turret does help to break the freeze. Now, wave starting to push back to Eddie on that top lane again. Still a little bit of a CS lead is fermenting itself in favor of Ewok here. But boss side of the map, totally Ominous Esports controlled. You see Nikki roaming in that jungle, using mid lane pressure, get some deep vision in Wokian's jungle. BD as well, picking up the Scuttlecraft, looking for another bot lane gank. Remember, Slick Drake, no flash.
He is clearing out the ward. Looks like that's all he's going to be able to get, but the dragon's up in 20 seconds. Another ward going to go down. Is he actually going to be able to clear it? This would be huge for him. Another auto comes through, and that is a lot of vision denied. These wards early on in the game have very long cooldowns. There's not going to be a lot of vision down for a very sizable amount of time for the Shadow Mustangs bot lane. I would say even a couple of minutes. I would guess both of these wards are on a 2.5-minute cooldown at this point. So a lot of vision denied, and he's just going to keep staying on the bot side, BD, pressuring this bot lane, trying to do the same as what Ewok's doing up in the top lane.
Yeah, I do want to point out, you know, I talked about vertical jungling as far as that goes. Wokian, not a lot of tools to help him in a gank from Merlin, from Ewok. There's not a high probability of a gank going well on the top side of the map. Same thing for BD, actually, right? Soraka and Ezreal is not offering that much in terms of killing the enemy laners early on into the game. Neither is a Victor. I think BD would be better served using that time to take this dragon away, but now Legit might be in trouble as Wokian looking for a counter gank bot lane.
He has arrived in the bot lane. Legit has both summoners available. Teleport in the back line as well. Slick Drake going to be going very low. One more auto attack could do him in, but Nikki has arrived on the scene. Teleport to follow as well, coming through from Merlin, but he is just a little bit late. Slick Drake going to go down to a flash Q over the wall from Sale, and First Blood has gone in favor of the Ezreal. Both teleports traded, but it's just going to be the one kill for now. First Blood going in favor of Ominous Esports.
Swift collapse from both mid laners, but level 6 on Nikki and 5 still for Merlin. Swings the fight in the favor of Ominous. Now they win the bot side. They win First Blood. They win Dragon, more than likely Dragon, and they don't lose much in return. That was a very, very nice turn of events there for Ominous Esports. And, you know, you got to think, if you're Shadow Mustangs, you gotta wait to team fight before you get those big cooldowns available. You need the Enchanting Crystal Arrow from Slick Drake. You need bullet time from Ninjas. You definitely need Primordial Burst from Merlin. Veigar is basically useless as a champion for anything other than, you know, some degree of setup with that Event Horizon until he gets that Primordial Burst. Early game, his Baleful Strike, his Dark Matter not doing any damage. Now top lane, Ornn is a champion that does some damage. He's looking for a 1v1 here.
Looking for the kill. He's going to get it. Just the auto attack straight away. Ewok a little bit too brittle for that situation. Bandage toss might be coming through, though, as well. Eddie starts trying to make himself an item. Decides better against that. Eddie trying to get himself out from this one, but Merlin has arrived on the scene. The kill's going to be given over to him. Eddie going to fall to the mage in the mid lane as Ewok's going to be teleporting himself back to lane. But the solo kill was found, but he paid for it with his life.
That's potentially a pretty significant kill. We talked about how important hitting those item spikes, those item breakpoints are for scaling champions, and Veigar in particular. You know, trading 1 for 1, giving Merlin the kill, probably worth it, probably favoring for Shadow Mustangs. So a little bit of a strike back there. It was, I like that Wokian ended up donating that kill over, but still, you gotta feel like right now map pressure in general is in favor of Ominous Esports. We'll see if they can get anything done with it. They already got that first dragon. Next Herald is spawning soon as well. For now, BD on the bot side of the map, not looking to make anything happen. And Eddie has been shoved under his turret, getting bullied a little bit by Ewok here, although he's doing some bullying back. That's a lot of damage, right? The brittle smack from Eddie, just Ornn doing so much damage. The turret shot on Ewok, he might be in trouble here, actually.
Has to use the flash to get himself to safety. Not what Ewok was hoping for when he started pressuring that tower. You have to feel sure about that, as he's going to be no flash now. Eddie will have his back up in about 2.5 minutes, and that Call of the Forge God could be very dangerous when it comes off of cooldown as well. In the bot lane, Legit clearing out some wards. I like to see the healing reduction built already by Green Ninjas, respecting the Soraka. Not a lot of healing reduction was built last game, so I do like to see maybe learning from their mistakes in that one, and they have picked it up here. That will just cut the healing that is being done in the bot lane from those Astral Infusions, as well as Wish if it does come through. So a nice item by Green Ninjas, very strong support item to have early in the game, sacrificing some other items until, you know, for just a little bit later because he has to go for that, but I think definitely worth it.
Yeah, I do want to point out that Misfortune is better at spreading those grievous wounds around than Tristana was, right? Slick Drake on the Tristana picked up the Executioners last time around, and that's not, you know, bullet time is a giant AoE AD damage ability that's probably going to hit most, if not all, members of a team. Tristana's got nothing like that. She's got some AoE magic damage from her passive on her E, the charge. I forget what it's called, but that's magic damage, right? That doesn't apply grievous wounds. That's not good enough. You really just gotta rely on those auto attacks. And with no Runaan's Hurricane, it's not an item that you're normally gonna want to build on Tristana. It's really kind of hard to spread those grievous wounds around. It's mostly just on whatever target you happen to be hitting at the current moment. Fast forward to this game, and Green Ninjas, like I just said, he's on the Misfortune, got the bullet time that can be used to spread that pain around instead, and suddenly Ominous Esports, that grievous wound item in the hands of Shadow Mustangs has the potential to hurt a lot more.
Absolutely could get a lot of work done. We saw the Curse of the Sad Mummy used in the mid lane for wave clear from Wokian. I'm not too terribly sure what the plan was on that, but he has collected some farm for himself, so worth, question mark?
You know, worth if you weren't planning on fighting over this Herald, but, you know, we'll see, because Ominous Esports, some pings already coming out. Eddie's got that top lane pressure, mid lane pressure probably in the hands of Nikki as well, and top side, BD Wokian's got no mana. He's wouldn't have his ultimate even if he had mana, so almost for sure we're going to see moves from Ominous to take this Herald. And already you see Eddie roaming down, starting it up. You see BD here as well arrived on the scene. You know, I'm going to go with no. To answer your question, I'm going to go with no. Not worth it. Don't use the Curse of the Sad Mummy there.
It also will not be up for the dragon fight, which is, you know, there'll be about 20 seconds before that is up after the dragon spawns, and that could be huge. That is a massive team fighting ultimate. Wokian could be caught out here. No, actually, there is no top laner up in the top lane. Eddie, of course, hitting the Herald. My brain just decided to turn off momentarily, and the Herald does go over, though, in favor of BD and Ominous Esports. Once again, just controlling these objectives in this map.
Yeah, controlling objectives in the map. Okay, but half the cooldown on the Curse of the Sad Mummy has been refunded so far, about halfway to go, which means we're looking at about 60 seconds until that baby is back off cooldown. Look at the jungle timers, it's about 30 seconds on Dragon. So yeah, if Ominous Esports want to force a fight quickly, they have a small window to do it. You know, I don't know if they're going to do it, though. I don't know. They don't have the information we have necessarily about when that cooldown is going to come back up. But we do see moves now from Nikki, from BD, clearing out some vision, moving towards the bot side of the map, trying to get in position to go to this dragon.
This is a very interesting pause come through. We've heard that there might be a bit of a lag situation on the support of the Shadow Mustang. So Green Ninjas there could be lagging out a little bit. But Merlin here, at least I'm frozen in the mid lane. Not too sure where the stream is paused. But Merlin is staring down Little Nicky and BD on this controller, which they are clearing. So Merlin can see them. They cannot see him. Looks like the readies have been called in chat. So we'll see what happens when they unpause. But this could be very interesting.
We'll see, yeah. Face checking into Merlin, although Merlin, again, not got a lot of damage, not having the first item completed yet, not real likely to be one-shot anybody. Nikki does get caught in that Event Horizon and eat a Dark Matter, but doesn't quite matter. Damage not coming through. Herald top mid lane, actually. BD looking to use that sucker to get some pressure. It looks like Ominous Esports, we talked about them potentially rushing down this dragon. Looks like they are going to do that. They are making the moves, and still, Curse of the Sad Mummy not quite available yet.
Not available for Wokian. He's going to have to concede this dragon. A nice Herald play also, just to draw some pressure in the mid lane. Pretty standard play, but very nice to see that executed. Very well done by them, getting a couple of plates as well. That gold going over to BD, who has gotten himself over in the wave here onto Green Ninjas, or over the wall, I should say. But nothing to come of that one. So everybody backs off, but it is 2-0 once again in favor of Ominous Esports on the Dragons.
And this is sort of a reversal from last game, right? Last game we saw Shadow Mustangs actually come out of the gate running. They were moving hard, they were moving fast, they were taking those first couple jungle objectives. They got both of the first heralds, or both of the heralds, both heralds period. There were only two. Both heralds, they got the first two dragons. They were in a relatively strong spot to fight over the third. They had that objective focus early on, and they sort of lost it as time went on. They almost they started, you know, misplaying some fights, losing some fights, and they lost control. But not because they weren't trying, but because they just couldn't. Fast forward to this game, we have Ominous Esports, who are just dominated the objective game. They took first hero, they took both first dragons. Wokian trying to punish topside now. Eddie's tanky though. I don't know if he can do this.
Misses the call of the Forge God. That's not what you like to see. Eddie gonna have to flash himself out. Wish coming through to buy him some extra health. And I'm blaming my host, Axeman87 here, for making me laugh. He's chuckling away in the backline. Primordial burst coming through. Eddie not gonna live to tell the tale of that one, and not the best tower defense I've ever seen.
All right, I'm gonna politely ask the chat to refrain from all this CS:GO talk, cause we are a League of Legends league. Gosh darn it, this ain't no CS:GO. We aren't playing Counter-Strike, you heathens, you degenerates. Come on, get with the program, get with the times. League of Legends is the cool game. And then speaking of cool things, top lane turret, Evok getting some cool turret plates for himself, forcing Eddie's teleport as well. So teleport advantage now in favor of the Shadow Mustangs. Fortunately for Ominous Esports though, there is no objective up for a while. We talked about the dragon going down relatively recently, but looking at the bot side of the map, BD and Nikki, you know, they are asserting control, looking like they might be almost threatening a dive here.
Yeah, they looked like they were thinking about it, but decided against it. They're on a ward. BD going to be clearing that one out with that item, the Umbral Glaive, I believe, coming through. Yeah, that is what that is called. So one-shotting of those wards, always nice to see in the top lane. Eddie still trying to get some damage down on the Ewok, but not working out too well. Doesn't have Call of the Forge God up, although based on recent history, it might not matter if that cooldown's up or not. Impact will be the same for him. Salem getting himself out in the bot lane, and everybody's just kind of chilling until those objectives come back up.
And you know, I have to say, I think if you're Ominous Esports, they are making exactly the right play. Chilling with a scaling Victor, Ezreal, Soraka, Graves, Ornn. This is maybe the strongest scaling team comp that I could have drafted if I had tried. Like, this team comp scales incredibly well. I have a difficult time seeing how they could possibly lose later on. That being said, there is quite a bit of pick potential coming through from Shadow Mustang between an Event Horizon and the Ash Arrow now and this Curse of the Sad Mummy, right? There's a lot of utility that they can use to look for fights, but this time there's an Ornn that can stand in front, tank all that stuff, and on top of that, you know, versus Soraka, again, legit is on the Soraka, there to sort of babysit and keep his carries alive later on into the game. That healing becomes ridiculously hard to deal with, even through Grievous Wounds. It's almost absurd. Now called the Forge God top lane. Eddie looking for another 1v1.
Not going to work out for Eddie once again. Wokian has arrived. Curse of the Sad Mummy is available if it's needed, but it's not even going to be required. Ewok picking up his first kill of the game, and Eddie having a bit of a rough one up here in the top lane. Does go down.
Eddie going down, you know, it is a kill, and a kill is a kill is a kill, but honestly, I don't think that kill is going to be all that impactful, right? Ended up getting picked up by Ewok there, did invest his flash, and will likely pick up a turret here, so that's good. That'll sort of, that'll help to create a little bit of a gold lead for Shadow Mustangs. I don't know if if the gold lead is going to matter, though. It's a relatively small gold lead, and you got to keep in mind, as the arrow flies spot lane, missed it, go a little bit wide. You got to keep in mind that the gold lead is a little bit deceptive, right? Ominous is gonna hit level 12, 13, 14 pretty soon, gonna start having those upgraded Ornn items come online, and that'll swing the gold artificially in Ominous's favor, even though the actual gold values might be different. If you look at the top of the screen, it might say that Shadow's in the lead, but there's, you know, several thousand gold worth of value coming in from those upgraded Ornn items, and just the inherent scaling of a Victor and an Ezreal and an Ornn and a Graves. So, you know, if you're Ominous Esports, I don't think you're all that worried about a little bit of a gold deficit at this point in the game.
Once again, Dragon coming up, and a key ultimate not available. Slick Drake not going to have that enchanted crystal arrow available for this fight. The Call of the Forge God is not available as well. That Curse of the Sad Mummy is up this time, but there is no arrow instead. So another part of that CC chain not going to be available now for the Mustangs. We might see a bit of a flank here. Salem and the Soraka legit on the backside going to be coming through, but here is the Call of the Forge God as well. Curse of the Sad Mummy, Call of the Forge God over 3 now on that one, but the Chaos Storm just ripping through this team fight as they do try to pick up a couple of kills. The shutdown going down onto Victor. Mumu going to fall as well. Legit flashing forward to get the heal onto Nikki to try to keep him alive. Slick Drake able to escape this fight. It's a 3-man rupture, but it's not going to be enough, I don't think, for Ewok to get out of this one. It is not. Lil Nicky going to be picking up that kill as well. It's a 4-for-1 in favor of Ominous Esports as they look to pick up this third dragon of the game.
And Ominous just run over that fight. That wasn't even close. It was a nice flash by Nikki, though, to get out of that Event Horizon, right? That started with Shadow Mustangs, thinking they had the pick, right? They got the Event Horizon down around Nikki. They were like, shoot, we got him. Wow, Salem. They were like, shoot, we got him. As Salem picks up a kill on the Slick Drake. We got Nikki in the cage. He's a Victor. How can he get out? Oh, he can flash out. That's why that flash is such an important cooldown. We were talking about it all game last game. Having that up versus Vygar totally changes the tide of the fight, especially if you don't otherwise have a way out of that cage. So, Nikki uses the flash, positions perfectly, drops a Chaos Storm on Merlin and Green Ninja, shreds through basically all of Shadow Mustang's backline, stays alive because he flashed not only out of the Event Horizon, but out of the bullet time as well, and the rest is history. Ominous just collapsed on the rest of that fight. The Call of the Forge God was down right at the start, but it wasn't down for very long. It came back up through the course of that fight, the collapse came through, and Ominous, they are now finding themselves as the ones with the gold lead, and a fairly significant one at that, and not to mention the dragon, the third dragon of the game, going over into Ominous's pocket, meaning that they are now threatening Dragon Soul, another Mountain Soul, which I think, you know, Mountain Soul is one of the stronger early and late game scaling souls, especially late game if you got a heavy front line. If you got an Ornn that is going to be building hundreds of armor and magic resist, which they do. Now Herald going over into Ominous as well. The engage coming through, that's an arrow.
Wokian going into the fight. He has sounds, no Call of the Forge God. Actually, there it does come through. The Curse of the Sad Mummy not available. Finally knocks one up. There's the kill out of Green Ninjas, even through the flash. He flashed straight into it as Salem now going forward. He feels free to be free hitting, and he should. He is just ripping through this team again. A fight that's not even close in favor of Ominous Esports. They win 3-0. It barely looked like they were even taking damage.
And Nikki did get caught out, and Nikki did die because, again, he was flashless in that fight. But guess what? The other key carry for Ominous Esports, the 6-0 Ezreal, he technically didn't have flash, but he's an Ezreal. He's hard to lock down. He's hard to pin down. He's got a pet Soraka in his pocket to just spoon feed him kills and keep him alive. 6-0 now on this Ezreal. I think Salem picked exactly the right champion to play in this game. Now Herald going over to Ominous Esports as well, the second Herald of the game in their control, and things are just snowballing very, very quickly, from fine to bad to really bad to somehow even more bad. Shadow Mustangs are going to have a really hard time clawing their way back into this game, even though it is only a 2K gold lead.
Also, I'm pretty sure that Merlin was the one that killed Nikki in the bot lane. So aside from that fight, I'm pretty sure that fight was a 4v4. I might just be making all this up, but I'm relatively sure that the Veigar picked up the kill on Victor in the side lane. And also that, 3-1 Veigar not in...
Hold on, let me look.
Baymax is checking, but I'm pretty sure Merlin was not in that fight, and he's like the main source of damage for this team.
You're 100% right. I'm kind of
watch out for.
Okay.
Yeah, as well. So Nikki went down in the side lane. There's no Veigar in that fight. It's hard to win the fights without that, CC machine, that burst machine coming through. That little Yordle is very important. So we'll see if he is in the next team fight. I want to point out a few items very quickly. The Twin Shadows has come through for Ewok on the Shadow Mustang. So we have one of those. Looks like it's going to be the Zanya, coming through for Merlin as that second item. So no Twin Shadows for him, but they do have one of them, and the Gargoyle Stone Plate has been completed for Woki.
Ooh, Herald getting dropped bot lane now. Might finally see this stubborn bot lane outer turret fall, but it looks like Wokian might have other ideas waiting in the wings with a bandage toss. We could see a fight here.
BD gonna get caught out. He's gonna be taken out straight away. I have to feel there's the Wish coming down to try to keep him alive, but he is going to go down at the end of that one. Salem now going for it onto Green Ninja's a nice Q, not gonna be able to pick up the kill. Chaos Storm doing some damage onto Woki, and Enchanted Crystal Arrow going to get the stun onto Salem as he's gonna be able to pick up that one kill. Nikki actually taking that with the ultimate, and the Herald is still alive. Did pick up that bot tower. Junglers traded 1-for-1, but the Ominous Esports team still on the charge in the bot lane.
Yeah, Ominous looking for more. It's so crucial that the Herald ended up staying alive. And by the way, I want to talk about it. That bullet time from Ninjas, it tickled. It did nothing to Legit or Salem. You were 100% right. The Soraka just outscaling that pick so hard, and it didn't even end up providing Shadow Mustangs the lane pressure that you maybe would have wanted, maybe would have expected, because it is so hard to outpoke a Soraka. She just heals and heals and heals, and it doesn't matter. You take a trade versus a Soraka. If it's an even trade, you lost it. If you slightly lost the trade, you lost it hard. If you slightly won the trade, if you slightly won the trade, you lost it a little bit. You have to brutally win a trade to get any sort of a lean in such a strong poke lane. Ooh, that teleport coming through from Ewok. Shadow Mustangs trying to capitalize on a potential overstay, but the recall just barely getting Legit out of there in time. Now Dragon Pit control, though, going over in favor of Shadow Mustangs. They desperately want to get this dragon, right? This is soul for Ominous Esports. They've got to deny it.
True Shot Barrage doing so much damage. BD going forward. Salem is godlike now. The kill coming through. Oh, interesting flash on that one. Gonna get stunned up. Trying to go for the kill onto Merlin. Not gonna be able to pick that one up. But the kill on Green Ninjas, he is so squishy. He melted faster than an ice cream sandwich on a summer afternoon. He's off the map. Surgically removed by the team of Ominous Esports. And they continue their march on these objectives, flipping the script on the last game. They pick up that Dragon Soul, and they might look to go towards the Baron.
Looking towards the Baron indeed, right? They only actually got one member of Shadow Mustangs, or am I crazy? No, they got...
You are correct.
Okay, I am correct. Okay, I'm not crazy. They only actually got one member of Shadow Mustangs, but the pressure is just totally in the hands of Ominous, especially after picking up that Dragon Soul buff. The Enchanted Crystal Arrow is flying. Shadow Mustang are trying to get here in time to do something about this, but I don't think they're going to.
Mumu waiting in the wings. He might be able to get in for a steal attempt. This could be a 50-50. They have vision. Can he get it? No, he cannot. Goes in a little bit too late. There's the curse of the Sad Mummy coming down. He is very tanky. Call the Forge God in exchange on this one. Only going to knock up one member. They're trying to pick up the kill onto Woki, and as they look to reset the fight. Now they have picked up one kill. Only 4 members. The bullet time going to get interrupted immediately by Eddie. That's a great knock up. Ewok trying to do his best, but the Wish going to cancel that one out. Green Ninja is going to be taken down as well by Salem in this fight. Merlin trying to pick up one kill, but it's just not going to be enough. The Mountain Dragon doing too much work. It's a triple kill now for Nikki. He is 6-1-2. Not to mention the 8-0 and 6 Ezreal, as the Barons picked up, the Souls picked up, and Ominous Esports are on the charge.
Ominous Esports on the charge. I'm just gonna flex my muscles one more time here. Shadow Mustangs. I didn't like the Cho'Gath pick. I didn't like the MF pick. I really think they're not working out for you. I don't know. You might want to go back to the drawing board on this draft. I really do think Ominous Esports just had the better draft, especially with Shadow Mustangs not getting ahead early on. Now with Baron in their hands, mid lane inhibitor broken open, Ominous Esports, they are resetting with so much gold. Remember, they hadn't recalled since that fight over that Dragon Soul. Not only did they win that fight, they got a kill, they got the Dragon Soul, they got the Baron, they won another fight, got some more kills, and pushed for that mid lane inhibitor, got another turret to boot. So, these guys gonna be hitting some massive item specs coming through. You see 3 items now, 3 for Salem. He is really gonna be hitting his stride. He is really gonna be terrifying. Eddie now, level 13, got the Abyssal Mask upgraded to an Infernal Mask. He's gonna be doing crazy amounts of damage as well. So, terrifying situation to be in for Shadow, terrifying position for Shadow Mustangs to be in. And I want to point out, before we were talking about how in the lead Ominous Esports were, and the gold lead was honestly relatively minuscule. It was like 2K. The gold lead is not minuscule anymore. We're up to a 7,000 gold difference between these teams. And with mid lane inhibitor broken open, the pressure, the ball is totally in Ominous Esports court.
I think it's also important to remember that this is the team that has the scaling advantage. Ominous Esports. We talked about how the Ornn could be providing a lot of damage in that late game in terms of the gold, leveling up that gold. The Victor scales really well. Soraka, Ezreal, they were just chilling to scale, and they're the team that's ahead now, plus the scaling advantage. This is very scary for the Shadow Mustangs. Nikki going to be caught up a little bit, but who's catching who, doing huge amounts of damage. Surgical removal from the map now for the bottom 3 members of the Shadow Mustangs as they are being ripped apart. BD now tanking up the turret. He's going to be doing that for days. Has to flash away to drop a bit of aggro as Nikki's now charging through the base. Ewok going very low. Nikki is now legendary and unofficial Quadra going over for the victor here as Salem just a spectator in this team fight. He's not even needed. The first Nexus Tower is under fire. The second Nexus Tower under fire at the same time. They're going to be followed. It's just Wokian here to defend the base, and a decisive series here for Ominous Esports, picking up their first win in the league in this game. The Nexus is going to fall. They just destroyed the Shadow Mustangs in this game.
The first game was a little shaky. The second game, that was honestly anything but shaky. That looked clean. That in some ways looked like a different team. But I don't even necessarily want to say that, because Ominous Esports, they played pretty well in game number 1. But Shadow Mustangs, they had more to play with. They found their own victories. This game, it just felt like Shadow Mustangs didn't. I don't know that they didn't draft the tools to get ahead early, but they just didn't utilize those tools well. And they fell behind early and just never had a chance to catch back up, right? 10-1 on Nikki on this victor, 8-0 on Salem, basically untouched in the backline of every single one of these fights. This was a dominating performance from Ominous Esports, and it's honestly it's kind of scary to me that they didn't lose, or I'll rephrase. It's kind of scary to me that this is the first game that they've won, or the first series that they've won, that they ended up losing to, who was it? I think it was the Holy Divers.
Yep.
Who did they lose to? Yeah, the Holy Divers. They ended up losing to the Holy Divers. So, I think Holy Divers maybe have to watch out. I think Ominous Esports have stepped their game up a little bit here. This looked like a clean game to me, a very clean game.
Yeah, they played very, very well around the map. Just very good objective control, I think, is what I would note the most for this team. I mean, sure, the bot lane, they just chilled. Everybody played their lanes pretty well. Eddie had a bit of a rough time up in the top lane, but he got a lot of gank attention by Wokian and occasionally Merlin, so not a whole lot of blame there. But just great dragon control, understanding their windows. They played around ultimate cooldowns very well. Not sure how deliberate that was, right? We have a lot more information than they do, but playing around the Curse of the Sad Mummy being down, the arrow being down as well was very good for them. And just, they never looked like they faltered in this game at all. Very, very clean. There was never a fight where they kind of got aced. And as soon as they got ahead, like you said, this is not a comp you come back against. The Misfortune support pretty much useless. The Cho'Gath wasn't doing anything. I mean, maybe you hope for a Dragon or a Baron steal with the Feast, but just was not to be in this game. And Ominous Esports, they, got an inch, they took a mile, and they just ran away with this game.
I don't know that there's much to add to that. That's just, I think maybe we should leave it at that. Yeah. Shadow Mustangs, I don't want to send them away with nothing. I want to talk a little bit more about this draft and what maybe could have been done differently here, because, I'm not sure how the draft went down. It was pro drafted, so pick order, ban order, not sure how that happened, but you know, and ending up with a poke champion, and especially a poke champion like Misfortune, who is sort of reliant on little bits of poke over long periods of time, drafting that against the Soraka is almost guaranteed to end badly. Now, you could defend them and say, hey, maybe they thought it was a Soraka top, right? It was actually Ominous Esports that pulled up the Soraka top last time around. Eddie was playing it. They swapped the bot side this time. Totally fair point. That was really well done by Ominous Esports if that's what happened. But still, you know, if that's what happened, I think you got to find ways to make it work. You got to have Woking player on the boss side. You got to find ways to force fights around the Asher, around the bullet time, because if you don't get that lane ahead early, then I think you're just throwing that all away, and you've almost already lost in draft if you don't take advantage of those picks, because those picks are strong early. You have the Asher for the bullet time. The base damage early in that is very, very high. It was an AD Misfortune support also, which is a little bit strange. Normally, when you see Misfortune support with Comet, it's AP, right, for that poke. You go AP, you have the Arcane Comet, you take probably Spell Thieves, and you try to poke the enemy out of the lane. I think her ultimate has some pretty significant AP scalings as well, so it'll at least do some damage with the ultimate to make it range, sort of the key ability there. So I think that's got to be refined. The Misfortune support has got to be refined. Also, the Cho'Gath, I don't really understand the pick at all here. I don't think it's good in lane versus the Ornn. I don't think it's very good versus any of the other champions Ominous Esports were running. You know, normally I feel like Cho'Gath as a champion is super useful. One, at being a frontline and sort of a protector for the rest of the team and enabling them. And you need to be playing against champions that you're going to be in range to enable, right? Like Ewok he's trying to run up and silence and hit his rupture on an Ezreal, a Victor, a Soraka, a Graves. Like, these champions are all just going to kite him to infinity and back, and that's exactly what happened. Even with the Glacial Augment build, even with the GLP and the Twin Shadows, he was not able to lock down anybody to land hardly any ruptures, land hardly any of those feral screams. So, you know, I feel like these picks, and the Amumu too, I mean, didn't work out that well, but I don't know. I think this game might have been a case of like lost in draft. I really don't like this draft.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. I don't want to just, be devil's advocate. I think there are chances for this draft. It seemed like a draft that you would pick after you had a lot of success in scrims. You'd really practice with these champions together. You were really going for that poke comp or something similar. It just seemed like they didn't play around their ultimates very well. They didn't realize when they were strong. And I think that's something to look at kind of even during the draft phase. Is kind of, okay, guys, let's fight around the dragon when we have Ashe ult and Veigar ult and Amumu ult all up. Right, we're just going to go in, we're going to try to wombo combo somebody, we're going to pick somebody off, maybe the support, try to take out that healing, and then just snowball the fight from there. But it kind of turned into, oh, we don't have one ultimate, let's fight anyway, we're split up, it didn't really work out, and so they ended up just not being able to utilize any of these ultimates, which aren't necessarily that strong in a vacuum, right? You want to be stacking them on top of themselves, and, Ewok was just kind of stuck in the top lane the whole game. Wokian got, a couple ultimates off when he was just going in by himself. His team wasn't able to follow up. He's the only really engaged champion in this team. And so it just looked very uncoordinated by the Shadow Mustangs. And I think something to kind of look at in those scrims is playing around each other, playing when you're all strong, communicating power spikes and things like that to try to have a more cohesive team fight.
I actually 100% agree. And you sort of caused an epiphany in my head when you said that about the ultimates. I 100% agree. This is a team comp that is very reliant on having ultimates, especially early on. If you want to pick a fight, you need the Astro, and you need Merlin's Primordial Burst, and you need the Curse of the Sad Mummy and the Bullet Time. If those things are not there, you are gonna lose the fight, and I feel like that's what unfortunately ended up happening a lot of times for the Shadow Mustangs.
Yeah, just didn't work out too well for them. But there is always a few more games as they get ready for their potential relegation match if they do end up being last in Piltover. But that is going to do it for us here, I think. Pretty short series today. Unfortunate we couldn't go the full distance for that third game, but sometimes that's just how the cookie crumbles, and we have to leave it with those two games. But on behalf of myself, I've been Jarl Carl. I've been alongside Baymax on the color commentary. Shoutouts to Axeman87 as our gracious host tonight as well, making sure we keep on the right track for the most part, and making sure the stream is running well for us. So we always appreciate that. On behalf of all of us, thank you all so much for watching. We will be back tomorrow evening, Monday, June 8th at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time for Team Supernova versus Team Dark Matter. It's a matchup that you do not want to miss, so we hope that we will see you then. Other than that, that's it for us. Thank you all so much for watching, and we hope to see you tomorrow. Good night.